who do you value more, Bud Dupree or Javon Hargrave? Because Bud Dupree had this year where he finally reached double-digit sacks. But depending on how you view him, some people have viewed him as either a bust or really wasn't productive or a one-hit wonder, whereas Hargrave has consistently produced year in and year out. But one was a first rounder and one was, I believe, a third rounder.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about those two guys, do you view Hargrave as more of a need than Bud Dupree?
It's a good question. It's a really good question. I think how the whole situation is playing out with Bud Dupree is probably the best way to go about it. Mm-hmm. It's just, all right, let's see if he could do it for this year again. And then you make the decision the next offseason. Now,
but then by doing that, you definitely lose Hargrave, whereas you could franchise Hargrave or even transition tag Hargrave and allow Bud to leave.
Right. And that's the thing. Which would you rather have?
I'm asking you.
I know. Who has a bigger impact? I mean, am I just falling for the flash? Is that what you're saying?
I'm just asking a question, bro.
Whatever the stats were last year.
I'm just asking a question, bro.
Over 11, was it over 11 sacks?
Yeah, 11 and a half.
Over 11 sacks, and the forced fumbles and the.
I'm just asking a question.
There were a lot of splash plays.
I'm just asking a question. I mean, Hargrave had a lot of splash plays as well. That's all I'm saying, bro.
He did, but not like Bud.
I mean, he's doing it from the D tackle spot on top of that.
Listen, I'm gonna defer to you.
I'm just asking you a question, bro.
I'm just gonna say Bud because that's what you want. You want the pass rusher. You want the Von Miller type
this
of player.
This is my question to you though, right? We've seen the elite game records in this league, right? Aaron Donalds. We saw in the Super Bowl Chris Jones. We've seen Cam Hayward. We've seen Stephon Tuitt. Are any of those guys outside edge rushers? We talked about J.J. Watt. Are any of those guys outside 3-4 edge rushers?
No.
They are what? Interior D linemen, right? Yeah. We always hear what they say, the best way to get out there with quarterback is pressure right up the middle, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just asking, who's really the game record?
What would you do then?
I'm asking you, man. What would you do?
I told you.
You going with Bud?
I would go with Bud.
Okay.
Right now on the franchise. Now
so you would rather go 1 year of elite productivity versus multiple years of really good productivity.
That's what I mean. Part of me thinks long term Bud's more replaceable.
Okay. So if Bud's more replaceable long term, why wouldn't you just stick with the one that has been producing that's shown that he could be a top D tackle in his league?
Because I'm all in this year. I don't even want to think about next year. Stairway to 7 next year.
Okay, so you're all in for this year, right? So you're believing that the 1 year, 11 and a half is Bud and not the previous 4 years.
Yeah. Especially under these situations. Where circumstances, geez, that was just a terrible use of situation.
It's all good.
Yeah, because under this situation now, he's gonna be playing for another contract. Okay. And he's gonna want to ball out. He's getting paid this year too.
So my question is this: I understand what you're saying, right? And he did it in his 5th year because it was technically the contract year, but wasn't his 4th year contract year as well, where they had the opportunity to either sign it to an extension or pick up his 5th year tag?
Well, you know better than me.
I'm just asking a question, bro.
That year was actually kind of underrated, correct?
It was.
Okay.
I've been saying that.
Okay.
But throughout that year, Hargrave was still balling out. Hargrave just wasn't talked about. His numbers are still there, though.
I'm just going for flash. I'm going for this year.
Oh,
man.
God.
And I think the combination of Tuitt and
we had this conversation before, too, though. You would rather go for the hot chick that doesn't have a braid versus like the chick that looks good. She could cook clean. She's probably like a 7 in the face, not a 10. But she does everything right. She's gonna be faithful and loyal to you. Like, yo, give me the chick that's a 10 in the face and a -1 in the brain. I got you, bro.
No, man.
It's cool.
I want it all. I want all that. I want a smart chick.
You just said you want the flash. You just said that.
For this year. Yes. For this year. We're talking football too. It's a little different than
it's a lot of similarities, man.
A little different than day-to-day
football
living,
and life
right?
are very synonymous, man. That's all I'm saying.
There are
bro.
some analogies you can make for sure.
And we've seen multiple flash in the pans. Not saying that Bud is, but we've seen multiple one-hit wonders. We've seen guys do it their contract year. In Pittsburgh, we've seen that. Guys do it their contract year, get paid, and what happened?
All right, so what is Hargrave's contract then? What would his contract
what he's probably going to get?
Yeah.
Oh, man, they're talking potentially 60 or 70 total. So put it like this, Bud per year is supposed to be 15 to 16. They're saying Hargrave should be like 10, 12. Think like a lower version of Fletcher Cox deal.
Okay.
And we know Fletcher Cox was paid.
So that's my question to you then. What would you value more?
I just asked you that.
I know, and
Yeah.
I said Bud. I'd rather have Bud on the 1 year tender.
Okay.
And I'm not saying sign Bud long term, but in this Hargrave case, then now your money's tied up.
Yeah.
$10 million a year. So what do you want?
But now the question is, couldn't you at the same time,
the
money that you could put in a Hargrave, you could let Tuitt walk away?
Wait, what do you mean?
In terms of releasing him, you could do that. Could you not?
I don't want to do that.
Okay.
Why would I want to do that?
I'm just asking you a question. One's been more consistent. One's been available every game.
Oh man.
Has there ever been any injury concerns around Hargrave?
No.
Has there been injury concerns around Tuitt?
Is Hargrave like
I'm just asking a question.
I'm bringing validity to your point. Is Hargrave this generation's like Aaron Smith, just flying under the radar? You don't really appreciate him too much, man.
I'm just asking a question.
What are you? I want to know what you're doing though.
Hey man, I like asking questions. That's it.
I do too. Because when I talk too much, I get in trouble. I have contradictions left and right.
Now, for me, man, as much as I love both of those guys, Bud and Hargrave, I think it is something that has to be thought about just because, like I said, with Hargrave, you look at the amount of time that Tuitt's missed. Now, granted, Tuitt can be a generational talent when healthy. And before he got hurt this year, he was on that trajectory. But at the same time, we've seen Tuitt flash where he has multiple games where he's dominating, and then he have multiple games where he disappears. We didn't get the opportunity to see what was about to happen with Tuitt because he got hurt this year. So that's always a concern around him. Whereas Hargrave has always been consistent, always been productive. People talk about him as a run stopper, and that's not even what he specializes in. He's a pass rusher. He gets after the quarterback. That's what he does. So when I factor in all that, I say to myself, man, like, we know Hargrave is valuable. We've seen the consistency, regardless of if it was a small sample size or when they gave him an expanded role, he's still produced. He's still been durable. I think the biggest knock on him was where he was drafted at. If he's drafted in the second round or the first round, it's a totally different conversation. Your perspective of him is drastically different.
Your brand's a little different.
Right. It's that simple. When you get that first round, he's a first rounder, you look at him like, oh yeah, like he's legit. Let's pay him now. But because he was a third rounder, it's a totally different conversation. Is it not? The productivity that he has, we don't even talk about like that. And his numbers are up there. But when you look at a Cam Hayward, who's a first rounder, he's talked about. When you look at Tua, who's a second rounder, he's talked. Tyson Alu, he was a first rounder. He's talked about.
Yeah. And he's what, 10, 11 years removed from the draft?
But it's all about where you got drafted at that gives people their perception of you. And sometimes it's fair, sometimes it's not. And in this case, I don't think it's fair because his productivity warrants that conversation. His productivity warrants that discussion. His productivity warrants the contract that he's going to get come free agency. Now, I will say that in this particular situation, because of Bud Dupree and how polarizing he can be in terms of fans either loving him or hating him, I think that does go in Hargrave's favor a little bit in terms of sometimes a guy that's been playing at a 7, you view him as a 10 just because you don't really view the other guy in terms of Bud Dupree on that level. So I think that has benefited Hargrave in this situation right now because they're like, man, Bud is a one-hit wonder. You don't trust Bud. But look at Hargrave, though. Man, Hargrave's doing this and this and this. And, I mean, the way people talk about him, you would think he was Aaron Donald. I'm not saying he's Aaron Donald.
Man, where are you getting this?
I'm just telling you, bro. Listen,
I know you.
I keep my thumb on the pulse, baby.
I know that.
And not just Steeler Nation, but with media as well.
I know.
Okay.
Man, I haven't heard that though.
I've heard this a lot, and recently. Yes. But then when I look at Bud, I say, man, okay, so I've known Bud as a teammate and as a viewer multiple years. So I know the years that were down for him. When they talk about his first couple of years, man, he only had 4 sacks this year, 5 sacks that year. People also forget that he was rotating. Me and him were both rotating. That's why both of our numbers were the same. It was like, oh, he's not playing 60 snaps. No, he's probably playing like 20, 30 snaps. And then out of those 30 snaps, he's probably dropping into coverage for 10 of them. He's probably a run play for 10 of them. He's probably rushing the passer for 10 of them. So those numbers aren't always going to be reality, but people like to casually push that to the side when they want to fit a narrative. Then you look at the next year. Remember, he missed the first half of the season with a surgery. Okay, then you get to the third year, and now you see him with the 6 sacks. I think it was 6.5. It's like, all right, decent year. as that would have been his first full-time starting year. Then that fourth year, he goes for 7.5. Then obviously this last year, 11.5. But the thing that I looked at with the fourth and fifth year were the amount of QB hits he had. High double digits in both of those years. And I said, okay, you see the trend. You see his tackles going up as well. You see when you watch him on film, just a smarter rusher. We talked about even when we broke the film down on him. So for me, I'm always seeing a guy headed in the right direction. And if you know the Steelers, what do they love to do? They don't want to go out and find somebody else's. No, they want to draft and develop and keep it in-house. And when I look at a Bud Dupree versus a Hargrave, I say, man, whose ceiling is higher? And I think it's safe to say that Bud's ceiling is a lot higher than Hargrave's. I think what we're seeing from Hargrave right now is his ceiling in terms of highly productive player, can get after the quarterback, can wreck the run. But that's his ceiling. Like, I don't think he's ever going to get to all pro status.
Right.
I think Pro Bowl would be a high accomplishment for him, but I don't see him ever getting to all pro status.
Right.
Whereas with Bud Dupree, he has that capability.
He got snubbed this year.
He did. We all could agree upon that. And the way people try to take out his legs in terms of the validity associated with him is, oh, it's because of TJ Watt. Well, let's be real about it. TJ's last 2 years have been highly productive, and there's no coincidence that that's been Buzz Dupree's most productive years as well. Yeah. Prior to that, that wasn't the case. It wasn't just TJ's out here just doing whatever he wants to do and making it happen by himself, because that's not how it operates. You need both sides. Otherwise, you're going to get double teams. You're going to get the slide protection. You're going to get a whole lot more attention.
Yeah, but think of all the dudes of the past. I mean, we did that one. It was a graphic or a video. Think of Harrison Woodley, Kevin Green, Greg Lloyd.
You need a dancing partner.
Yeah,
you need one. And that's the thing. When I look at Bud Dupree these past 2 years, I said there's no coincidence that both of these guys' numbers have been what they were, because they both have been feeding off of each other and opening up the defense for each other. Now, you can think that, oh, man, we just take Bud out and put somebody else in and plug and play, and it's going to be just fine. I'm telling you, you're sadly mistaken, because it's not how it works. It's not. Why you think when Von Miller was out in Denver, they drafted Bradley Chubb? Say, man, hey, it's all good when DeMarcus were out there with you, Von, but when DeMarcus gone and you're getting all that attention, the numbers take a drop. We saw that.
Yep.
It's different.
Definitely.
You need somebody over there getting some of that attention, and somebody that's legit, not just a body.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, when I say that, I say, man, if we already know you're planning on extending TJ Watt long term, why would I want to take away his dancing partner? Why would I want to take away that person that's been producing with him to keep him open so he can go over and terrorize games? So for me, I'm saying to myself, yeah, you got to roll with Bud Dupree in this regard, because first off, Bud's ceiling is a lot higher than Hargrave's. Bud can, like I said, be an all pro. But at the same time, the impact that Bud is going to have is not only on himself, but on TJ Watt, because that's going to let TJ go over there and be a freak. And that's what we all love. And also, it's going to make that defense that much better. So for me, that's how I answer that question, man.